Thank you all for coming. This is the Tech Inclusion Startup Showcase. I'm not going to give away a car, but you should get excited. The reason why this is exciting is because as entrepreneurs, you know that people from underrepresented groups are often don't have access to the same amount of capital, don't get the same amount of exposure to potential investors, as well as they have challenges in getting into networks. So we're so excited that we have this part of the competition because it's really going to show.
Judges, thank you so much for your opportunity.
Hello. It's really going to show some of these great startup organizations that have really had the opportunity to. They have one underrepresented founder, and they're here to showcase their talents in their companies. And we've got some pretty exciting judges that are going to help really assess their company and their goals. And there's going to be an awesome, this is a competition, so there's going to be prizes. So for our first place, they are going to receive $3K. And second place is going to receive $1K. So this will help with something, right? When you're bootstrapping, every penny counts. So we're super excited for that. So I just want to invite you all, as we have the founders on the stage, that we're able to really support them and show them how excited we are for them to showcase their companies. So without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce the judges. So from Silicon Valley Bank, the entrepreneur in residence is Shruti Shah. Come on down.
I'm about till number 4, so.
From Techstars, we have the VP of Corporate Development and Strategy, Don Loeb. And last but not least, we have Samala, who is the co-founder and managing partner of Canon. Thank you all. All right, so I am going to introduce our first founder. Her name is Emily Shea, and she is from Ally.
It's a Slack app. It's a Slack app that helps companies improve their diversity and inclusion.
Pull up our vision real quick. Just let me look at one.
We are all here because we care deeply about diversity and inclusion. We get to attend amazing events like this so that we can learn from this incredibly inspiring community. But when we go back to work on Friday, there's just one question. How do we get everyone else in the organization to care? How do we include everyone? We've talked to hundreds of employees across tech, and 2 big themes emerged. One group of employees is unsure. They don't know their role in diversity and inclusion. Maybe they don't know what it means, or maybe they just don't know what to do. Another group feels excluded, that they have no outlet for their issues, that the little interruptions and exclusions that build up over time ultimately make them feel like their voice isn't heard and their contributions don't matter. Now, how do you reach both groups of employees? How do you make sure that everyone feels included, engaged, and like they belong? I'm Emily Shea, CEO of Ally, and we help companies build more inclusive culture. Ally integrates with messaging platforms like Slack so that employees can provide instant feedback and receive personalized coaching. This makes an inclusive culture accessible for everyone. So, if we go back to the interruptions example, you're probably not going to go to HR or someone's manager, but now you can send Ally a quick message. Ally will automatically detect what type of issue you're facing and determine the best advice for you. Okay, let's see. Find an ally, someone who can echo your points if you get interrupted. This microfeedback then gets aggregated to company-level insights, like to Kate. She's the head of HR at our first customer. She's able to surface feedback that she never would have seen before. The small things that eat away at culture, like those interruptions. Her CEO can then see executive-level dashboards, which ultimately drive diversity and inclusion strategy and her learning and development strategy. With Ally, employees have a safe space to feel like their voice is heard. HR has a data-driven way to quantify the impact of inclusion, engagement, and retention. And the CEO can preserve culture as well as protect from any reputational risks or lawsuits. We are selling directly into HR in the C-suite, a SaaS model that charges a per-seat fee. And we've identified a massive gap in the market. How do we know? Well, we closed our first paid customer in 30 minutes without even a demo. We just wrapped Techstars, and over the course of program, we built up a waitlist of over 20 companies, including names like Blue Apron, Spot Hero, and Pandora. And we're excited to announce a new partnership with Harvard and the Gates Foundation to quantify the impact of inclusion in the Fortune 500. And this is just the start. Today, Ally surfaces reactive feedback in response to issues that have happened. Next, we're incorporating proactive feedback with positive engagement features, micro-training, and employee sentiment detection using machine learning and natural language processing. Ultimately, we'll leverage the incredibly rich interaction data available on these platforms to paint the most holistic picture of data-driven inclusion at work, which no one today is doing. We're a team of 2 data-obsessed engineers who care deeply about this issue. My background's in consulting, where I deployed and led change management and org design programs across the Fortune 500. My co-founder, Simon, is a full-stack engineer who's led and mentored teams of devs across tech. We both know what it's like to be different and not know how to handle it, and now together, we have the privilege to build and scale allies across the globe. Our mission is to make diversity and inclusion accessible to everyone. If you think your organization could use Ally, please come talk to us. We all know that change can start in this room. So please come join us in making the world a more inclusive place. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emily. Let's give her another round of applause there. And Emily, actually, you got to come back. Emily? Now it's time for Q&A.
Thought I could sneak away there.
Yeah. I mean, you did drop the mic, literally, so, you know, I'm sure they don't have too many questions, but we're going to have a couple minutes, 3 minutes now for questions from you all.
Thanks, Ally. Is this on? Okay. That was great. One question for you. You mentioned you're on Slack.
Correct.
What other messaging platforms are you focusing on? Because I think one of the things, there we go, now it's working. One of the things, especially given your mission, is like how are you reaching everybody across all the places, like at all levels, right? So it's not just knowledge workers on Slack. So what's the plan to move to other more common messaging?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're starting with Slack as our first integration. Given our beachhead market scaling tech companies, Slack is very prevalent, no one use it. And then we're expanding from there. So Microsoft Teams is next on our roadmap, and then we are using customer feedback to figure out the next platform. I think email and text makes a lot of sense, given that has pretty wide universal reach.
Great job. Are there any privacy issues with, I mean, if somebody at a company complains about sexual harassment, for example, does HR get that and then they're able to take action, or do you have access to that information? How do you navigate that piece?
Yes, I think selling into HR, their mind immediately goes to worst case scenario and everything in the news lately, right? So we allow users to kind of control how their data is being used, given that with a lot of these issues, there is a power imbalance, and how can we give that user an employee agency? So you can identify yourself, or you can choose to be anonymous. And then we do have a feature within Ally that if there is an anonymous incident, something maybe around sexual harassment, you can use Ally as a shield to say, oh, hey, user X, looks like this incident happened. We need more information. So you can protect anonymity while also reaching back out to that user.
But you're going to have to get it like sitting like in the front.
My question is actually a little bit related to branding in terms of conversations that have happened around emotional labor and how it tends to fall on a certain side of the gender spectrum. Can you tell me a little bit more about how you landed on Ally and where the idea came from for the name?
So we came up with the concept of Ally, I think, in terms of what you're saying about emotional labor. There was never any triggering incident that caused us, my co-founder and I, to leave jobs in tech. It was always the small, subtle things that built up over time. So one of those, hey, there's no outlet for this. What do I wish would have existed when I was in the workplace? And I think simultaneously, we'd also become interested in the use of conversational interfaces. And so I think confluence of a few different things, but hey, there is no data. There should be data. Ideally, companies would want to know about this so that they can change culture.
Thanks. Just one more question for you. You're selling at the HR level. Is there anything you can sell into a team for value, from that perspective, so that you don't have to have this big hurdle to get over in terms of selling to HR?
We've certainly considered a freemium model, but I think given our current feature set, the only reason you give feedback is because you want your voice to be heard, right? And so if there's not someone on the other side of Alley to make sure that those changes are implemented, it doesn't make sense for us to do kind of a team product yet.
Right. No, I get that. I didn't know if there's something specifically for teams that there could be feedback for that would be useful that then would graduate into more HR-like feedback and so on.
Got it. Yeah, I think it's certainly something we're considering, but it has to kind of align with our feature set and core value, so probably midterm for us.
All right. Any more questions? Excellent.
Thank you.
Well, thank you,
That was
Emily.
great.
Let's give her another round of applause. Great. Now, I really like the product too because they call microaggressions death by 1,000 needles, right? So it's the little things, right, that sometimes upset us. So now we have our next presenter. Her name is Brittany Dejan, and she's from Able Thrive.
Yes? Oh, yes. Got it. Hi, I'm Brittany, and I'm happy to share Able Thrive with you today. I want you to imagine for a second heading home from work, grabbing dinner, watching TV, heading to bed. How does that change if you have a disability? What would your life look like? How would you do things differently? When my dad was paralyzed in a car accident, he had to relearn everything. He was left without movement from his chest down, and he didn't move, and without the movement of his fingers. Because we had access to incredible care and mentors, my dad now lives a completely independent life. He drives himself to work every day and even danced with me at my wedding. But most people in my dad's situation or with some other kind of disability have no, have no idea what's possible. In fact, 1 in 3 Americans with disabilities are living in poverty, and only 19% of them are in the workforce compared to 69% of people without disabilities. People need resources to thrive, but how would you know where to look for them? They're buried all over the internet, and Google isn't going to cut it because you can spend hours looking through hundreds of websites and not find the articles, the videos, the products, and the services that will enhance your quality of life. That's why we need Able Thrive, which is a one-stop platform that features curated articles, videos, products, and services that are delivered to our users based on their interests and the details of their disability. We offer, by asking simple questions about people's situations at registration, we're able to deliver custom support without the families being responsible for looking through these websites on their own. We're dealing with a growing and underserved market. So there's 1 billion people with disabilities in the world, 56 million of which are in the United States, and 1 in 4 of today's 20-year-olds will have a disability by the time they retire.
Keep going.
This community also has
Right
$175 billion worth of discretionary spending power that is often overlooked by other companies and people who target these markets. But not only can we deliver resources to people, we can also have a mission-aligned business model that gets people the equipment and products and services they need. We generate revenue via affiliate marketing sales, sponsored content, and targeted advertising for companies that struggle to otherwise reach this market. We actually generated our first revenue last month. We're using technology in a way that's never been used before within this community. The same way that companies like Netflix and Amazon are relying on recommendation engines to make sure that we see what we want to see, we're using the same kind of technology into Able Thrive to make sure that people are getting the resources that they need. In addition, rather than competing with stakeholders in the sector, we actually collaborate with them instead and make use of the resources that are out there rather than reinventing the wheel. This is just a snapshot of some of our partners that we work with in the space who source their articles, videos, products, and services through our platform. It truly does take a village to make something happen like this. So our executive team is led by myself, Kristen, Tim, and Roman. And we're supported by a diverse group of creators and writers who make Able Thrive what it is today. All of us either have a disability or have a loved one with a disability. We're also supported by a board of directors and advisories board.
It looks so bad now.
Right now, we're attracting over 11,000 monthly unique visitors, and our videos have over 2 million views and 12,000 shares on mainstream and social media. And we have over 210 partners in 13 countries. Within our pilot group of people with paralysis, we are being shared currently in 13 spinal cord injury hospitals. Once we can establish a proof of concept within paralysis, we'll then expand to cover different types of disabilities and make sure that everyone can have the resources they need to thrive. We want people to know to go to Able Thrive to start their life with a disability as instinctively as they know to go to Google for an internet search. We're looking for the people and that have the human and financial capital to make Able Thrive reach its full potential. So please join us or find me later to chat if you're interested in learning more, because together we can make sure everyone has the resources that they need to thrive. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Brittany. I personally have a hidden disability, so it's comforting to know that you have a product that's supporting that community. So let's get started with the judge questions.
Hi. Great job.
Thank you.
I'm curious to know more about what your revenue model is. So you mentioned sponsored content and affiliate marketing, but how do you charge for that, and what does that actually look like?
Sure. So, for example, the first revenue that we generated this past month, we launched something called Able Goods. And so we find products that are used by members of our community, used and approved by members of our community, and we share them with how users use them. And we have two options. So if it's sold on Amazon, then Amazon, our first step in validating this came from using Amazon affiliates, but we also build relationships with the actual company, assuming they have a product specifically marketed to this community. So we have, for example, a smartphone that's made for people who are paralyzed from the neck down. That company is paying us to put content on our site that will be tagged to people with that specific mobility so they can truly reach their target markets, which they have trouble doing with otherwise.
That was a great job.
Thank you.
Question on following on the revenue model. Have you thought of, well, two questions. One, where do you get the other content if it's not from people providing it? And then two, have you thought of, instead of doing a referral model or supplementing it, selling directly into the institutions and providing a tool set around that, collaborating on things and or maybe providing it to the caregivers, right, as opposed to it being purely a user has to find you and then it's all advertising based?
Yes.
Is that part of it, or is that?
So first question, how we get the other content. So not all of our content makes money, and so a lot of everything we source or curate into our posts is publicly available. We do actually only do that from our partners because we want their buy-in, because they're also our distribution channels into the community, because we can't find everyone on our own. And so that's where the content comes from. And actually our first 2 years we spent just building trust and credibility by sharing content that wasn't making anyone money. And then within your second question, so in terms of not being a middleman but being more direct, am I understanding that correctly, or?
No, it's just right now a patient or a caregiver has to find your site and use it, as opposed to someone maybe being leaving a hospital, someone there coordinating care for them would actually provide that information or get them to that.
That's actually what we're doing with those hospitals. So the 13 hospitals that I mentioned, we actually have done in-services with their staff so that they're all aware of Able Thrive and can get people while they're in inpatient. For example, within this subset of the population, my dad was in rehab for 5 months in 1998. Today, that average is 37 days. So people are getting kicked out of the rehab setting incredibly quickly. So we're getting together with these hospitals and getting it baked into the rehab structure so that people are going home with it. So that when they're ready to date again, which probably won't happen within that 37 days, they have something that will show them how other people like them are putting their pants on, setting up their online dating profile, or going on a vacation. Yeah, thank you. Oh, that's not on.
I didn't have a question, so.
Okay.
Good job.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Brittany.
Thank you.
What an excellent project.
Good to go? Okay. Oh, I'll go this way. Oh, this way.
Excellent. So our next speaker is Russell Ladson from Drop.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Give it up for Russell.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. How's everyone doing? My name is Russell Ladson. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Drop. At Drop, we're a team of human-computer interaction researchers, engineers, and designers who are obsessed with the way that people will discover and interact with the world in immersive computing environments. So something we've seen is that for the past 30 years, information has been presented to us in a flat and two-dimensional sphere. The question is, how do we move away from that when we're now behind an HTC Vive or another type of VR or AR hardware? We've gone from point and click with desktop to the power of touch with mobile, and now with VR and AR, true immersion. So as a team, we said, how will we interact with information in immersive computing environments? Take a look here. At Drop, we've built one of the first internet searching and browsing experiences designed and optimized for VR and AR. In other words, most individuals refer to us as the Google Chrome for VR and AR. Something we've seen when we released our product was that there was a high level of engagement between how long users were actually spending inside of the interface. Now, you're probably wondering, well, why does high engagement actually work for search? It works because what Google has done for the past 30 years has made sense of data processing. And that's great when I was on my desktop and mobile phone. But now that you're in VR, the idea of moving away from data processing information to now making sense of information through contextual nodes are now presented to you. So when you're planning trips, you can actually make sense and say, Yosemite is connected to my Airbnb, which is now connected to my car rental that I'll actually do in a few minutes. In addition to that, we saw that over 60% of our users were actually returning to our browser to actually do searching and discovery inside a VR and AR headset. Most of our users, who are true enthusiasts when it comes to immersive computing, have said, guys, I never thought about internet searching and browsing in VR. It presents a whole new way of actually looking at information. And how quickly can you guys get this out and actually make it available to the public? Today, Drop is available for download on Viveport, which is HTC's leading marketplace for VR and AR apps. It's also available on Steam AR and VR games marketplace, where you can also download it. I'm extremely lucky. I get to go to work each and every day with a team of extremely world-class individuals, human-computer interaction researchers, individuals who have worked at Sony, PlayStation VR, individuals who have built one of the first medical MRI data UI as well. Now, we're here talking about diversity and inclusion, and we've been also lucky in the investment space. We've been able to get the backing and support of one of the leading Taiwanese technology manufacturers for VR and AR, HTC. We've also raised capital from a leading frontier technology firm who has invested in space and also robotic companies. We've also received the backing from a top media company in LA and also one of the top diversity seed funds here in Silicon Valley as well. Guys, we're located here in the Bay. Our office isn't too far. It's maybe about less than half a mile. We would love to show you more and tell you what the future is actually going to look like when it comes to information and discovery in VR and AR. Thank you.
Can you tell me a little bit about how you are thinking about the future of XR? And it's a market that hasn't quite matured yet, and it's moving fast, and isn't quite at consumer level tech. So how does that impact the way that you are thinking about scaling your business?
Yes. So right now, when we think about the future of the company today, when consumer downloads aren't, spectacular or mimic mobile numbers, so something we saw was that, when Google first actually entered the space, they kind of leveraged the power of Yahoo. We saw the power that Internet Explorer had by being available on Microsoft, and us working so closely with top hardware manufacturers, we think that there's actually an opportunity, and we're having internal discussions right now about actually making Drop a sort of default searching and browsing experiences for hardware. So in other words, that would allow us to attach ourselves to a larger hardware manufacturer for the next 18 to 24 months, and then start looking at more consumer adoption later down the line.
That was great.
Thank you.
And go Bears. I live in Berkeley.
Yeah.
So, what do you think the main use cases are, is one question.
Mm-hmm.
And two, it feels a little less like search and a little bit more like organization of information. I'm curious if that's where you're going, because it's more like a Pinterest board or something, right? Being able to find and put on a wall, right? So is that where you're going, more collaboration and organization, or is it straight search works a little differently, right? So I'm just curious.
Yes, so that's actually in our future product roadmap. So something that we're looking at right now, and we've been lucky to have a team of neuroscience researchers look at this as well, with this idea of, when you go to Google right now, you get your top 10 results, which is great. But as I was saying in the speech, is well, how do you actually make sense of these sort of visual nodes of information now? And we think that's when a collaboration piece actually come in. So people that are in the space typically talk about, VR and AR are so isolated. Well, we actually don't think it has to be, because oftentimes when we're doing something through information gathering on our phones, it's actually involving another person. So how do we now do that when we even have a version of our product that uses gesture technology, where if you and I were planning a trip to Yosemite right now, and it's well, actually, let me just throw it down and let him actually catch it right now. So we're actually looking at collaboration for our future builds. Yes. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit, you mentioned that you have apps in different app stores, but
Yes.
how do you go about acquiring customers? Is it just through the app store, or do you do additional marketing? What's the strategy there?
Yes. So right now, and this is our own personal takeaway, we think that, as a frontier technology startup, reach isn't your goal. It should truly be about usability and research. And we've seen it recently with Oculus. Mark actually released Dash this week at the Oculus Connect convention. But when we look at our own marketing research, is that we're all true enthusiasts on the team. We all use the product. And Drop was something that was conceived and, actually built through the kind of the word of mouth. So when we look at our marketing right now, and it's actually it's non-scalable. We actually are able to reach users through HTC's platform, one of our largest investors, us being so well ingrained in the actual community and actually sharing, hey guys, it's available for download, and actually just building something that people have told their friends about. And that's been our biggest source of actually acquiring customers today. And connecting that to your question, we think that the scalability comes in when we're actually able to attach it to a large hardware manufacturer. Yes. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Russell. Awesome. So our next presenter is Andrea Chasko from Coding Autism.
Hi. Hi, everyone. My name is Andrea Chasko. I'm a co-founder at Coding Autism. Our mission is to inspire the next generation of neurodiverse STEM leaders by identifying them, developing them, supporting them in STEM learning, starting from youth through middle school, through high school, and making sure they make it to universities or vocational programs. At this time, it's no surprise, many people have heard the news. The US is falling behind regarding innovation, creativity, especially regarding STEM. According to the Obama administration, by 2020, 1.4 million computer science-related jobs will be open. However, only 400,000 graduates with the qualified skills to fill those positions each year. That leaves a gap of 1 million open positions. As a country, we need to come together to help fill that gap, and that means addressing the funnel of talent. It also means redefining what talent looks like. Did you know that there are 500,000 autistic teens aging into adulthood in the next decade? Out of that, 57.4% go into post-secondary education, and out of that, over 18,000 into vocational programs. However, despite completing these programs with highly successful rates, over 80%, between 80 and 90% are still underemployed or unemployed. This is absolutely unacceptable, and most of this is due to stigma. Regarding autistic talent, a lot of people don't know that some of the skills and traits that autistic talents have are actually very conducive to being a programmer, a coder, a web developer, things like being hyper-focused, high optimism, extremely detailed-oriented, and many are visual and systematic thinkers. In addition, people on the autism spectrum, their error rates when they're coding and programming is approximately 2 to 3%. A person who's neurotypical, their error rate is as high as 30%. Companies such as SAP, Microsoft, and EY are starting to recognize that and have started autism programs. At Coding Autism, our goal is to help increase the funnel of talent going into STEM fields. We've learned that people in the autism spectrum tend to major in STEM-related fields much higher than neurotypical peers. It's a difference between 34% and 22%. Our goal then is to actually start reaching autistic students when they're young. So at elementary school, middle school, tracking them, supporting them through high school into vocational programs or universities, and then helping them with their career transition. We also have an on-site 20-week certification program for the technical skills for teens that are graduating into adulthood. Our key and main differentiator is that we've learned with people who are autistic, they have the IQ, the technical skills to actually do the role. Where it becomes a little bit difficult and where they need to be support is regarding the emotional intelligence, the executive functioning, the IQ part. And so we have designed a fully integrated program with social skills and technical skills. We also provide one-on-one coaching. This is our team. Our CEO, Oliver Thornton, is on the autism spectrum. I am neurodiverse. And our technical and co-founders have been in the field for a number of years. So today, I want to thank Change Catalyst and the judges for the support for letting me speak and become a Change Catalyst Fellow. From the audience, this is what I ask from you. We are all here to create an inclusive future. In order for us to redefine talent and to really talk about it, I ask that each of you meet somebody, reach out to somebody new, somebody completely different than who you are or who you've known. Trade information. And that's the only way, as we start new partnerships and relationships, are we going to start to create an inclusive future. Oops. And lastly, alone we can't do much, but together we can change the world. Thank you.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit more about how you find customers to be part of the programs? Are you building partnerships with organizations, or is it more of a direct-to-consumer model?
We are partnering with different organizations, especially within school districts and like the regional center. They're always looking for different resources. With all the funding in the US government, only 2% goes towards life skills for people who are 18 and older. So services like ours are really needed. We've done other events, and the Department of Labor or the EEOC automatically come running to us and offer us funds for things like supporting coaching and providing 50% of their salary for the first year, because it's extremely important to get this very talented population into roles.
Thank you. That was great. Outside the United States, are you focusing at all at that, or is that coming much later?
Coming much later, that's our goal, but right now we are focusing on just the US.
What's the size of the population globally, if you're looking at the numbers you ran through here?
Yeah.
What does it look like if
I believe it's 7 million.
7 million, okay.
You mentioned a little bit about partnerships that you have. Can you tell me about which ones you have that are really strong, and what kind of partnerships you really need and would make a huge difference in moving things forward?
Our partnerships that are really strong tend to be partnerships that are within the autism community. The partnerships we really need are from diversity and inclusion companies sitting out here. Our goal, in order for our graduates to be successful, we need to have partnerships, sponsorships, and mentorships. It's important that our participants are in those environments, getting supported, knowing what they're like. And so those are the partnerships we need.
A little bit about your business model. Is the tuition a cost bared by the folks that you're wanting to serve and put through the program, or is it coming from companies, universities, or outside partners?
Currently, the tuition is coming from the student and the families. Our goal is, since we're just kicking it off, our goal is to eventually have it supplemented. And so we've already been talking to like the Department of Labor and the EEOC on supplementing, and same with the regional centers for kids.
Excellent. Thank you so much,
Thank
Andrea. When we talk about inclusion, it's so important to remember that disability is a part of that as well. And what a fantastic way we're showing that various people have abilities to join into coding. So we have 2 more startup founders that are coming up here. So next we have Renee Donnelly from Colibrix.
Hi, I'm Renee, and I'm here today because of possibilities. I'm a nurse and, I'm a nurse and an advocate for people. I've been working within the healthcare system for over 24 years, innovating and helping people. And what I've discovered as I innovated with big people like Samsung, Lucens, and Amazon was that it was like throwing a boulder up a mountain. And that's not what I want to do. I want to help people, my patients. And so, on the advice of Amazon, I came out and formed Colibrix. And Colibrix, with our talented team, we formed Contigo U, an app addressing healthcare and patients' major problem at the point of discharge. What is that? It's finding doctors, finding skilled nursing rehab, and finding caregivers at the point of discharge. Those 3 things are causing delays in discharge, high costs to healthcare, and poor customer satisfaction. When over 55 million Americans that are looking for skilled nursing rehab ask healthcare, please help us find these things, what they get from healthcare is, we cannot help you. We can't advise you on this, but you can go to the web, go to Google, Yelp, or Angie's List, which is too much information, which is confusing, and it's not one place. So Contigo U, we're with you. We have one place for them. And for the first time, they can actually see by location their doctors, see them, see reviews, actually choose and book And for the first time, they can see skilled nursing rehab by location, see it just like a hotel listing, and they can choose, and they can see caregivers, see reviews, see them choose, and patients and families can go home safely on time. How do we make money? Well, we stated that there's booking. There's the download of the app for $1 for patients and families and healthcare workers because it just makes good sense to give patients a choice. And there's also, every time they click, then we get paid, VCs get paid, and advertising. Now, we are asking for funds so that we can go from a prototype to our app. As we continue, we don't want just money. I'm out of time. Sorry. Oh, we don't want just money. We want a VC that's going to stand with us and help us succeed because we're dedicated to our patients as well. And healthcare change starts here and now. Thank you. Sorry. I didn't look at the time. I apologize.
Thank you for this. Have you ever seen Aunt Bertha?
I'm sorry.
Have you seen Aunt Bertha? It's a company that sort of organizes listings like this, but not directly like this, but it's the notion of searching for healthcare providers and others as you're exiting the hospital. You should take a look at them because it's interesting. I agree with you. There's this need, and so the question is the need more for patients or is the need more for the nurses and doctors when you're discharged?
Ooh, sorry. This is still
Okay.
going. So what I do know is I'm not, so for hospitals, they give patients 2 days, and they give it at the time of discharge, usually. So the Aunt Bertha might be for people looking for long-term, and that's usually what is out there. For skilled nursing rehab, which is short-term, there hasn't been anything yet that I've found looking on Crunchbase and looking throughout all the, internet. So is
sorry, to be really specific, my question was, is this more for the patients or is this more for
This
the
is going to-
discharge people to help?
It's directly going to the patients and families because families can be here or actually helping them in New York City or in another country. And it is for healthcare workers as well because they can say, here, we're not going to advise you, but you could take a look at this.
So you're just providing it, you're not
You're not
healthcare workers are
advising
not
because they
okay,
don't want
yeah.
to advise.
Okay, thanks.
How are you currently acquiring users, and what plans do you have to grow your user base?
Okay, so we are a prototype, but I have been, what our plan is for acquiring users is to take it directly to, market it to the strongest people or the most used people, which would be seniors, cancer, and then also to healthcare directly, maybe the discharge nurses, and also skilled nursing rehab as well as caregivers. They'll be our marketing. They have no way of advertising as well, so marketing it to them as well. And doctors. They have no way to reach new patients.
Since you're reviewing services on your website, how do you, is it crowdsourced reviews of doctors, or is it you guys are verifying with?
Doctors already have reviews that are out there, so it's,
You're just
it's
pulling that
actually
out.
grabbing, just kind of like Trivago does.
Okay.
It would be grabbing like a MetaSearch, grabbing Centers of Medicare Services has reviews on as well. So we grab reviews that are authenticated, grab it, put it down.
Okay.
So it's authenticated reviews. It's not reviews from people. Well, actually, it'd be a combination.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, great. So we have one more Startup Showcase participant, and then we are done. So why don't we go ahead and bring up Lisa Galopter from Techquitable.
Thanks very much. Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa Galopter, and in conjunction with Frida Kapor-Klein and my co-founder, we started Techquitable. And the idea is to create work culture that works for everyone. So the general gist is we are a third-party, tech-enabled ombud service to address issues of bias, discrimination, and harassment in the tech industry. Or as we like to say, we're going to put the EQ back in tech. Baha. Thank you, thank you. So as everybody is aware, everybody in this room certainly is aware, there's a huge problem in the industry. There has recently been a lot of press coverage this year that has brought awareness and light to a lot of issues. As a black woman who's been working in software for over 25 years, I am here to testify that that is not new. It is not just this year. It has been happening for decades, as I'm sure you all know. The bottom line is this is a huge problem. It is a $16 billion issue of people leaving tech because of unfairness-based issues. So there's a lot to address there. And we like to think of this as our math equation. The path is clear, right? So everybody understands at this point that having greater employee diversity at the end will give you better financial returns. In order to get greater employee diversity, you need to have a more inclusive workplace. To create a more inclusive workplace, you need to have a more supportive culture. And that's where we come in. So Techquitable is creating an independent, confidential, impartial, and off-the-record resource where employees can consult without fear of retribution, and they can also address issues ranging from subtle, insidious slights and invalidations to overt discrimination and harassment. So I'll talk a little bit about how we're going to do that. It's actually threefold. My hands are full, but it's threefold. The first is to actually address the audience of employees, people who feel uncomfortable in their workspaces or maybe like they're treated unfairly. And the idea here is, again, not just to tackle issues of overt discrimination, but also to address the death by 1,000 paper cuts, right? How do you address the fact that my boss said we can't hire any more black engineers because that would be lowering the bar? Or what about the fact that there's not a bathroom I'm comfortable using? So trying to empower them, figure out what their next options might be, what their next steps might be, and give them a little bit of the control back. The second audience is the companies. So we will be collecting enough quantitative and qualitative data that we'll be able to aggregate it and give real, effective, actionable, and targeted recommendations so that they can actually adjust their culture, whether that's to a specific team, to a specific person, or the culture at the entire company. And then the third part is actually to help educate the folks who might be inadvertently making people feel uncomfortable, right? So what people describe it is as, just because my boss says a racist joke, that is not the totality of who he is. And so how do we get in front of some of those issues and help so that it's not the next 20 years of perhaps escalating behaviors? And because we are impartial, the idea is to go in and talk in a non-judgmental, non-accusatory way and figure out how they can be better bosses or engineers in terms of communication, what perception is, why it matters, et cetera. So we've done an extensive set of user research at all of these companies. From that, we've developed user experience. So we have a customized digital platform where you can go and get guidance. We also provide personalized phone support. And then on the right side, yes, the right side, you can see that we've created a dashboard where people can get real-time analysis. So the business model is where there's a lot of other people who are focusing on pipeline issues to solve diversity. We wanted to focus on inclusion and retention. And the idea is for companies to offer this as part of their benefits package. There'd be an annual subscription fee. And I will just say that in terms of what the future might take, you guys have, I'm sure, been reading the news for the past week or so. And so it is likely that we will expand quickly into other industries like entertainment. Sad to say, there is no dearth of these issues. That's it. Do you need more? Okay. Thank you.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the mechanics of the product itself? Like what the nuts and bolts are?
Sure. There's actually technically 4 pieces to it. So the first one is we go in and we do an assessment. So we really are focused on making systemic change. Ombuds in particular are things that have worked in other industries, have been around for decades and have been proven and borne out. But the idea is to actually make sure that as you're hearing the problems, you're thinking about ways to systemically make change within the culture and the company. So one is to go in and do a company culture profile to help them look at their code of conduct, look at their retention code of conduct, look at their retention numbers, try to figure out how they're set up to start with. That's one part. The second part is to actually do phone support to make sure that we are providing the needs, right? We're very attuned to kind of what the company needs, to make sure we're providing the right kind of support. So when somebody calls up and says, hey, Chris said such and such, we should know that Chris is the CEO, those types of things. So we'll do customized phone support, and then from that, we will customize the digital platform, which is right now, it's a web app, and part of that is because we want people to be able to do this anonymously. So not have to log in, not have to identify who they are, so that we, in fact, are not keeping any records, so we can't be subpoenaed, we don't have any of those legal issues. And then the dashboard.
I'm curious, how much do you charge? And I assume it's company-wide that you're looking to sell into.
Yeah, we're doing a per employee per month model. And I'm happy to tell you, it's custom.
That's fine.
I mean, it depends on the size of the company.
Yeah, and if it's anonymous and it's a web app, how do you protect others from getting in there and asking questions or leaving comments?
So right now, right now, there is no place for user-uploaded feedback for the public, right? So there is reporting an issue, again, anonymously, and so we secure that. And then the idea in the long run is to actually potentially create a look-alike community. So I'm a black female engineer. I might want to talk to other black female engineers. I'm thinking about how to use maybe Facebook for validation, right? Because what we don't want is trolling. And so trying to figure out some way to create a supportive environment like that.
I assume you want people to communicate across companies then? Is that what you're...
For the look-alike community.
Right.
But that is also a little bit of future.
Great, thanks.
Sure.
How many customers do you have currently?
One. We just started 2 months ago. But I will also say we have had one sales pitch, and they bought it. So far, so good. Awesome. 100%.
Thank you so much. Look, we've got technology supporting the issues that we're here talking about, so exciting. Well, that wraps up our last founder and company that we will be showcasing. So the judges are now going to deliberate, and we will be announcing the winner at the main stage at the end of the conference. So I think we end at 5 today, so somewhere between 4:35 or so. Again, just a big round of applause for all the people who were brave enough to get on stage. And then thank you to our judges who are going to be making really a tough decision in terms of the first and second prize winners. So thank you.